Chapter 4. One more book? Good question. It may not be just one more book to you. If you are a seeker of truth like I was, who has only been able to find bits and pieces among the books and paths you've found, hopefully this book will bring them all together for you now. In any case, if you believe that caring, kindness, and harmlessness are what true spirituality is all about, rather than spiritual teachings, philosophy, dogma, beliefs, or what religion you belong to, we welcome you as a friend, or welcome you home because we believe the same thing. Hear the essence, not just the words. One day Zane, who at this time had been my personal teacher for a couple of years, asked me to come speak with him. Peñol, one day too soon, you will need to leave the monastery. You are destined to do many things with your life, important things. What things, Father? Teachers have different choices they can make with their lives, different directions. These have been called rays, based on the 7. You can switch between rays, however, if you choose. Only one ray is totally dedicated to being a true teacher. Perhaps you will find a way to bridge the rays. He outlined the choices I would have after I left, and discussed what each path, or ray as it was called, would entail. He also spoke of past lives, and why I had certain talents other than being a spiritual teacher, like with music, writing, diplomacy, political leadership, and strategy. He told me that among other things, I had been a great writer in some of my lifetimes, and I would soon be called on to write the most important works that I had ever done. I was to present the teachings of the children of the law of one to the world, openly, publicly. Why? I asked. This has never been done before. Why now? Because of the time, my son. It is written. It is predestined. You need to write a book that will accurately reveal much of both the written and oral traditions, before the end of the millennium. The oral traditions also. Yes. It is time. From the earliest days of human life on earth, some of the teachings of the children of the law of one have only been communicated orally, from teacher to student, an adept monk to an elder monk. There were various reasons for this oral tradition. Special teachings were only imparted at a time when the student was ready to comprehend, and to truly realize it, and make it part of them. Also, spiritual concepts, knowledge, and training can be very etheric, complex, and subtle. As opposed to written teachings, oral teaching allowed an enlightened teacher to instantly know if a miscommunication or misunderstanding was taking place during the instruction. This way, if there was a misunderstanding of an important teaching, the adept could correct it, or wait until the elder's consciousness grew more. All this ensured that elders accurately grasped all aspects of vital spiritual training, and could thus pass this on to their future elder or novice monk students. But now, I was being told that out of necessity, the exclusivity of certain oral traditions were being broken. At the monastery, we were taught to be able to understand and communicate with people, regardless of culture or religion. But presenting oral teachings in written form for the first time creates many problems with communication and understanding. Fortunately, I was given some special help for this task. In many of my interactions/courses with both elders and my personal teacher, Zane, I was given special attention to reawaken my knowledge and skills regarding the problems of written word communication. As a result, this book strives for unusual clarity. Words are a very limited form of communication at best, Zane said. They are often and easily misunderstood. This is because words are but symbols, the meaning of which is subject to interpretation by each individual from their own point of view. And individuals' points of view vary wildly. When it comes to communication, written words are even worse. Since a writer cannot address every reader's individual point of view, individual interpretation, or reaction, it makes full and accurate communication via reading and writing impossible. Even speaking to someone in person, on a one-on-one basis, The essence of the desired communication may not take place, however, it is more likely to succeed. This is because a sensitive teacher, or speaker, can tune into the individual's point of view, and thusly communicate in the manner that gives them the best chance of fully receiving the message being communicated. But even so, communication is still very difficult. Have you ever found yourself saying, "That's not what I meant"? I understood instantly. It all came back to me. Using the word self or ego is a good example of a common verbal communication problem that can be corrected for, when speaking in person, one unknown. These words can mean many different things to different people. Ego, for example, means a negative personality trait to some, but it means the essence of being, or soul to some, it means the strength of personality to some, etc. Self can mean the inner being to some, and can mean the essence of selfishness to others. So personal communication is difficult enough, but when words are written, there is no chance to correct misunderstandings or clarify, if they are misunderstood. So please keep this in mind. If you disagree with what you read, it may not even mean what it seems to mean. The whole truth. Zane brought me over to the library, and had Gabriel, the adept who was the keeper of the library, discuss more of the particular problems with writing spiritual teachings. In addition to the difficulties of communication with words, there are special problems involved with conveying spiritual concepts and universal truths. It is written that because of the duality of the plane we exist in here on earth, and the limitations of our ability to really understand the infinite oneness that is the universe, the closest we can get to ultimate truth is still only half true. That means that the highest truths I can really explain to you here, even in person, are still half untrue. Thus, if you try, you can find another half-truth that conflicts with it, and argue the truth of either of them. For instance, it can be truthfully argued that our future is predestined. It can also be truthfully argued that we can change the future. They are totally opposing concepts, which seem to make the opposite concept impossible to be true. Such opposing true concepts are called a paradox. Paradoxes contain seemingly conflicting half-truths that are true in and of themselves, and while one truth may seem to make the other impossible to be true, the greatest truth is actually revealed when both half-truths are understood as a whole, even though that doesn't necessarily make sense when analyzed logically. Since paradoxes often contain the greater truth within their conflicting half-truths, they are the closest thing to full truth that we can convey with intellectual minds. Yet they cannot really be understood with the intellectual mind. A paradox must be intuitively or spiritually grasped and understood. I understand what you mean. It is similar to a concept in a book I read before I came here. They called the total understanding of something grokking. Grokking? Yes, there is a need for a good English word for it, and I suppose we can use that. We should have that book brought here to the library perhaps. But few people do grokking. Many people choose to believe or focus on one concept within a paradox over the other. Thus they lose the whole truth. For instance, in regards to the future, they may be either fatalists, thinking all things are destined, or they may believe the future is totally unwritten. As we know, neither are true, and both are true. Zane interjected. You should grasp and accept a paradox intuitively. It cannot be truly grasped with only the intellect. Thus, an adept understands that both concepts are true simultaneously. For instance, regarding the particular paradox Gabriel was using as an example, we simultaneously know that after something has happened, what has happened was destined to happen after all. It did happen, period. That is absolutely true, is it not? Yet we also simultaneously know that through free will everyone alters and creates the future, period. That too is absolutely true, is it not? Each concept opposes the other. It would seem that they cannot both be true, yet they are. Even though it may not be logical, intuitively having both beliefs simultaneously allows us to understand the broadest truth about events that may take place in the future. As far as totally pure ultimate truth, we can only really get it when we are out of body, in a higher spiritual consciousness that knows, not just intellectually thinks it understands. Words can be stepping stones or sinking sand, I said, so how can I possibly represent such paradoxes, and present the true teachings of the Atlantean children of the Law of One? Gabriel responded. Regardless of the problems of written communication, the times require it. And even though it is not the best way to communicate and reach people, the one/universal spirit/God can be expressed in many ways, including words. Those who can intuitively interpret the meaning behind the words may be kindled and awaken to the spirit within them when they hear the words brought forth by saying, I know I have read certain inspiring words that rang a bell of truth within me, as have all of us here. What kind of world do you want to live in? According to the teachings of the Atlantean children of the Law of One, universal principles dictate that the kind of world you live in, and the creation of your future world is all up to you. It is entirely your choice, and in your power to change all by just making changes in yourself. Gabriel said, you need to include this concept in with the teachings. You'll tell the people of the world this, before any teachings or path can help you. You need to understand a simple, basic, preliminary truth, and make some important decisions. Author's note: I will repeat the following teaching again later in the book, but it is so important, and such a fundamental issue, that I think it should be included here also. The first thing you need to do is ask yourself a question, think about it well and seriously, and then make some choices and commitments. Here's the big, yet simple, question: what kind of world do you want to live in? Once you decide that, you can achieve it. Here is the incredible but true deal we have in the universe. If you want to live in a good world, then be good. A paradisiacal one? Then be a paradisiacal being. It sounds simple, doesn't it? It is beautifully simple, but it does work, and it's based on sound scientific principles and universal principles. Which principles, Gabriel? I assume we are talking about science magic? Aren't we always in some way or another? Isn't that what creation is? Let me give you an excellent example of this vitally important principle. An example that has been used by our ancestors for ages, and one that you will no doubt want to use for your students someday. You've worked in the kitchen, yes? He asked, while looking at me with a deep and serious stare. Yes. You have seen how oil and water, or oil and vinegar, separate, even if you try to mix them. Yes, they don't mix well, and even at that, they don't remain mixed for long. Do you know why? I shrugged, letting him quickly go on to explain the important point I knew he wanted to make. It's simply because they have different natures, and they each naturally gravitate to their own nature. We are no different. There are laws of physics that dictate this, but behind them is an even more primary universal law or principle. As you attain higher consciousness, you will come to understand that the same universal principle that makes oil and water separate and find their own levels also applies to people, and even their essence, spirits, or souls. Every individual will ultimately end up in the kind of world they belong in, with others like them. So if you want to live in a world of unselfishly loving people who are kind and care about each other, you simply need to be like one of those people or change to become one. That's easier said than done, I said. Zane interrupted. There may be trials and tribulations as you change inside to become a better person, but ultimately, it will be done, if it is your will to do so. Gabriel added, all you need to do is persevere, and you will attain your goal. That's all. Just persevere. That's it? Zane went on to give me more details of the principles. The world outside you will change according to the changes you make within you. This happens in small ways and big ways. For example, if you are a drug addict or alcoholic, You usually have friends that are the same way, and a certain lifestyle that accompanies who you are and how you are. The reason you are a drug addict is something internal. If you change inside to where you are no longer an addict, you will find that without any effort on your part, you will lose or drift away from your old friends, and soon you will have new friends. It's also likely your job and housing situations will change also. I have seen people raised in ghettos full of drugs, hatred, envy and crime, who left it all behind to live good and productive lives. It wasn't because of the breaks they got, or the cards life dealt them. They didn't have any advantages different from anyone else in the ghetto. They transcended their environment, and their environment changed all because of how they were inside, or changed to be inside, and the actions/choices they made because of their internal disposition. This also happens with spiritual changes. You must have experienced it yourself already, Peniel. Didn't you find that your friends actually changed as you changed, even before coming here? Yes, that's true. Wait until you leave the monastery and meet them again. You'll find the common bonds you had with people you knew don't exist anymore, and soon, those people don't exist in your life either. Even ordinary people experience this. If they really change in consciousness, their old friends drop out of their lives. And new friends who are on a similar level or path come into their lives. You may still have your old friends in your life somehow, but they aren't in your life in the same way. The example of addicts was just an extreme one. It happens in subtle ways too. Of course, the ultimate change is enlightenment and gaining universal consciousness. As a result of that extreme of an internal change, everything in your life will change radically. And it goes beyond the physical boundaries of your life. Also, when you attain universal consciousness, you will no longer be a prisoner to the physical plane. You can come and go. And when your physical life is over, you can choose to come back to help others, or ascend to a paradisiacal spiritual existence. It's all up to you. Everyone's own world is all up to them, from their immediate little world to the universal plane they exist in. And don't think it is such an impossible task to achieve enlightenment. Start by just becoming a really good person. Remember Enoch's examples of imaginary worlds number 1 and 2 in the last chapter. If you want to change your life for the better, just become like the decent person Enoch used in his example of imaginary world number 2. You can certainly change that much, can't you? Does it sound so out of reach for you to just become a really good person? Of course it isn't. Well, if you can achieve that, becoming enlightened is then just one step further. The purpose of presenting the teachings. We present these teachings with the hope that they will move and inspire you to walk, or continue to walk, a path of oneness with the universe, a path of unselfish love, regardless of your denomination or other beliefs. And to those ends, as you read, if you don't understand something, or you disagree with something, please just disregard it temporarily, especially if it turns you off, or your feelings of unselfish love seem to shut down. If you can, expand your point of view somehow, perhaps with meditation if you know how to do any, and contemplate the problem from a higher state. If that is not possible, or you still disagree or want clarification, please contact us by email or letter and tell us your problem with it. Give us a chance to understand your point of view and your problem with it. It may mean something other than it seems to you. It may not, but whatever the case may be, nothing is so important that it should make walls between us and dam the flow of our love. Don't you agree? A book with a built-in sequel. This book is divided into 2 parts. The first part will primarily contain some of my personal experiences, lessons, and discussions with teachers at the monastery. And in that format, it will present the teachings of Atlantis, actually the positive spiritual teachings of Atlantis, which are the teachings of the Atlantean children of the Law of One. The teachings cover a wide variety of spiritual and metaphysical subjects. It will also include direct translations of excerpts from a variety of the ancient texts. an instruction manual for life as citizens of the universe that got lost in a drawer somewhere. The teachings contain reflections of the universal spirit, including universal laws and principles of the spirit's manifestation and order in life. They can, therefore, be used as a kind of manual for, or schematic of, our relationship with it all. It can be something to help those who wish to get directly back in touch with God, attain peace of mind, and become truly kind, caring beings. The second part of the book gives actual instruction in the children's training system of daily mind and energy exercises, techniques, and meditations. The purpose of this training system was to help the children maintain harmony and balance of the spiritual, mental, and physical aspects of their being, and help them directly experience oneness with God. They were also used to re-achieve that balance, and that connection, if it had become lost. This same system was used in Atlantis, and is still being used today by children of the Law of One around the world. Part 2 also provides you with amazing, yet practical uses for some of the children's legendary Atlantean vibrational technology. You may have heard that Atlanteans were well versed in the advanced use of color and sound for healing and consciousness altering. While we obviously can't teach you all the complex details of this science here, experts in Atlantean vibrational technology from the children of the Law of One created it, and have continued to use it for thousands of years. Now, for the first time, some of the consciousness-raising vibrational sounds are available to the public. We have put specific versions of these vibrational sounds on CDs and tapes. When used properly, according to the directions in Part 2 of this book, they can dramatically aid in helping you change yourself and improve your life. The How-To section gives specific instructions for accessing and reprogramming your subconscious mind through the use of the special sound vibrations, by combining them with verbal induction/guided meditation/affirmation techniques. We wanted to include the recording packaged with the book, but we were told it should not be done, because some bookstores would not carry it then. So the instructions for ordering the vibrational sounds are in the back of the book. The back of the book also has instructions for ordering a video which teaches our style of yoga and our ancient energy techniques. Why the book? Besides the reasons I've already given, ours is an esoteric path that has been deliberately kept relatively unknown for some time. But as mentioned earlier, this time was prophesied it is the time to publicly reveal many things, including the ancient history, teachings, and future prophecy. You are about to read about one of the reasons that the book is being published now. It is also about another reason, one of the prophetic signs that it was time to make the teachings public. Even though the location of our Tibetan monastery was secret, isolated, and so well hidden that it didn't even show up on satellite photos, years ago it was attacked. All the monks and householders who were in the Tibetan monastery at the time were killed. Some who were in the area, but not at the monastery at the time, survived. Monks in other places around the world were also attacked and murdered. I discuss this whole issue in more detail elsewhere. This great loss to the world went unnoticed by most, yet its significance and impact will ultimately be felt in many ways, and has already begun over the years. By the time you read this, I may be gone also. I was asked to consider leading a rebuilding effort of the Tibetan monastery by other surviving monks. But I am much older than when I was last there, and was doubtful that my body could even withstand the trip, but if it was the will of God, I would do it somehow. After the attacks, I became the eldest teacher and head of our order, and thus was left with a great deal of responsibility. So before deciding, I went into deep contemplation meditation to seek guidance. The choice was left to me, but I was reminded of my discussions with Zane when I was young, when he told me I would be writing this book. Son, it is written that the day will come when the land of the teachers will be desecrated. Then you will know it is time to begin your writing to make the teachings public. A new order in the world is to begin then. There will be a new order of darkness, and a new order of light. You must initiate and herald the new order of light. I now know this new order of light involves the kindling of a very old idea. It involves many people waking up to and recognizing the vital importance of the Golden Rule and really working to apply it in their lives. The Golden Rule, which is essentially just be unselfishly loving, is so basic and simple, it has often been overlooked. Yes, it's an old concept. But it is the most important spiritual teaching in the world. In fact, it is at the core of the ancient teachings. Unfortunately, even though the idea has been around forever, and most everyone knows of it, the masses have never really caught on to it, realized its true meaning and significance. Thus, it has never been implemented in most people's lives. Yet it is the very crux of true spirituality for all people regardless of faith, or lack of faith. Even most Christians, who were given the Golden Rule as their only commandment by Jesus, haven't gotten it, nor implemented it in their lives. But the Golden Rule has remained through time, a beautiful spiritual buried treasure patiently waiting to be found and shared. And like a smile, it is universal, crossing all barriers of language, culture, and religion. Every good person on earth, regardless of other beliefs, agrees with it, and can find common ground in it. Thus we chose the name Golden Rule Organization, GRO, for the umbrella under which many related projects are underway or planned. The Golden Rule workbook we have written is the perfect vehicle for all those who believe unselfish love and its offspring should take priority to any other belief, but who are not ready for the total sacrifices demanded by monasticism or other such full-blown spiritual lifestyles. The book gives a detailed program for improving your life and relationships by using unselfish love and other techniques. It also tells you how you can set up Golden Rule groups that can meet weekly, or whatever, for purposes of helping each other grow. Those who are interested in being involved, networking, or becoming part of a fellowship in their area, are welcome to contact us. Getting back to the rebuilding issue, after contemplative meditation over the whole matter, it seemed pointless to rebuild in Tibet. Elsewhere, yes; Tibet, no. A new era was at hand, the signs were everywhere. The order had a new destiny, so I declined to rebuild there. Unfortunately, while my decision was honored by the elders, some novice monks, whose sentiment overwhelmed their higher senses, launched their own rebuilding effort. It failed tragically and ended in more deaths. It is clear to me that a great change is upon the people of this world, and some of the traditional ways of the children are past and over. However, new ones must rise from the ashes of the old, and we continue to keep the most important teachings and traditions alive. We will support and teach anything that makes for more unselfish love, caring, kindness, and unselfishness, and that assists the return to oneness with the universal spirit. And in any case, the essence will always live on. You can destroy countries, cities, homes, families, bodies, minds, even entire worlds, but the soul and love always survive and go on. While most people these days are completely out of touch with nature and the universal spirit/God/the One, some have suffered enough to begin looking for a way out of the darkness. There have always been teachers to help those who were ready to find the way out, to find the universal spirit inside themselves. But these are unusual times and few teachers are left. Thus this book is also written as a preliminary aid to help illuminate those seeking the light of truth and unselfish love, and as a way to maximize the resources of light, and continue making it available to all who are in need and are ready. In the chapter on monasticism, we'll discuss other changes and plans to keep the work going.